All right, guys. So I had to do this video really quickly. Bear with me. I'm using my streaming system to do this video, just so it could be as intuitive as possible for me. I can click and be quick with it. But the gentleman that I'm about to put on screen right now, his name is Brian Mazik, and he's incredibly on the inside. He's a super insider when it comes to the gaming industry, and even more niched, the sports gaming industry. He is actually one of the first people, even before the summer of 2020, to get an interview with Steel City Interactive and talking about Esports Boxing Club. So he's super inside. So just keep that in mind when you get this information. He is very well connected. Now, and also, his link will be down in the description box below. Please go over there, show him some love. The man deserves it. He works super hard. He writes articles for Forbes all the time. The man is a hard worker. But what he said here was mind-blowing. If all of this information comes to fruition, it can change everything in terms of what we know for Esports Boxing Club. So let's get into it real quick. I'm going to pull him up right here, and we're going to go ahead and play the video.
Let's go. I've been looking forward to talking about this. Let me get my notes. We're going to talk about ESBC. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. It's going to be... Woo!
And just to let you guys know, of course, I've already seen this, so I will be pausing in a few spots to give my thoughts.
I got to talk about it. I have learned there are some major additions coming to this game, to this roster. Now, I know it's a lot of people that have already been added.
When I hear major additions coming, the only thing I can think of are people like, Anthony Joshua, Floyd Mayweather Jr., but really my mind leans towards Floyd Mayweather because of the recent developments of getting his father and uncle in the game as trainers. So I think that there's information out there that he probably privy to that could, because Mayweather's huge, and keeping that under wraps may be pretty difficult. So I'm leaning towards a Floyd Mayweather reveal coming. And I think that that's probably what he's talking about when he talks about major, but he's saying additions with an S. So who else could it be? Mayweather, maybe Anthony Joshua, Mike Tyson.
There's some big names we've already seen. But I have learned that there are some serious names still yet to be added. And I'm talking, don't put any limitations on what you think, because
that's a Floyd Mayweather type of statement right there.
This game has really evolved from where it was. It's still being done by a small studio. It is. But the buy-in with this game and the assistance that's happening, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I do not believe that this game is going to be released and published by the people who originally, and I'm not implying that they're selling or anything like that, and the idea is going to be bought out by somebody else. But if you see what's been happening, look around at what's happening with EA and 2K and those different companies. You see EA bought Metalhead Studio, and so now Super Mega Baseball will come out through there. Saber Interactive was not a part of 2K at one time, but they brought them in for NBA 2K Battlegrounds and WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Man, these publishers are...
Now, this is something that I've always kind of felt was possibly happening within the Steel City Interactive Esports Boxing Club, that a major publisher is trying to partner up with them to kind of buy it in a way where they're the ones who publish it. Now, if this happens, it will be amazing for marketing. Now, I do not think that it is EA, as EA has kind of communicated with people and explained that they are looking from the outside in and seeing what the success would be, because they were already in that market, in that boxing market, and they didn't really enjoy the outcomes of that. So what I'm thinking is probably maybe 2K or Take-Two Interactive that owns 2K. Take-Two Interactive also owns the Grand Theft Auto series, but I'm thinking that something around those lines, because this is an opportunity for 2K or Take-Two Interactive to have that boxing title under their belt. They have the basketball, but they'll have this boxing title as well, and that could give them a leg up in that vertical against EA for whenever EA decides to come back, and especially if this game is a major success, because EA won't blink twice to bring back boxing if ESBC succeeds. So I do have this feeling, like all these major investments that are coming in and all that stuff, I have this feeling that is connected to a publisher and that's trying to connect to ESBC in a major way.
Are seeing, I'm telling you, I'm seeing this. These publishers are seeing what's happening with ESBC, and they are coming at it, and they're coming with it. I'm telling you guys, and I am of the belief that ESBC Boxing's title is going to have like a little bit of a change to it. It's still going to be everything we've been seeing, but I'm just having a feeling that this is going to happen.
It might say 2K ESBC or NBA, no, ESBC 2K, something like that. Who knows? Who knows?
Man, and in conjunction or even before this happens, I believe I'm 100% sure pretty much that it's going to still be ESBC Boxing unless something happens. But I think that some other branding is probably going to be a part of this. And there are some major additions that are still coming to this roster. You guys keep your eyes open. I'm telling you, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to. I think my track record is showing up pretty well lately. So I'm telling you, look out, because it's going to get even more serious than it is already. And so I'm looking at some other updates and things that I think are going to be coming in terms of trailers and that sort of thing. But it is going to be a serious boxing game. That whole way that it started is like this little engine that could kind of a title.
It ain't that
and
no
we just
more.
hope it's got a little bit, and we're all prepared to look at it like the maximum football of boxing. Nah. It ain't gonna be the maximum football of boxing. It ain't gonna be the maximum football. I'm telling y'all right now, it ain't gonna be the maximum football of boxing. It's gonna be a true, real boxing title. And there's some affiliations, I believe, that are going on that are going to ensure that it's on that level. So I'm excited about what it might be.
Guys, this is an industry insider. He is a journalist within the sports game industry. You have to take what he says with a certain level of credibility, because he's inside. He's not just, on the outside looking in. He's on the inside looking in. He's on the inside looking around. Let's put it like that.
So I'm really looking forward to it. So let's stay with that though. ESBC, one thing that I've been recognizing from talking to people, one of the biggest reasons why this roster is still growing is really based on other fighters, right? So I don't know how many of y'all know, fighters have huge egos, huge egos.
Mm-hmm.
They do not want to be left out. They don't want to be, if everybody else is in this game, it starts to get to a point where it's kind of like when the roster is getting so big, it's like if you are really a serious star, if you're really this, then you should be a part of this game, because look, this person is, this person is, this person.
And I think that this kind of was born through the huge snowball. There was a snowball effect happening, but the huge snowball was ignited when Canelo Alvarez jumped on board. I'm 100% positive that Canelo started in a crazy train of a bunch of people trying to get into this game.
This person is, and a lot of the fighters, and I'm telling you this, I know this for a fact. There are fighters that are literally going to their managers and they're telling their managers, I want to be in this game. Get me in the game. Call whoever you have to call, get me in the game. And I'm not telling you something that I think when I say that. I'm telling you that I know for a fact is happening. Now, one thing that is also happening, I think that there is a misunderstanding sometimes with some of the managers, because most of the managers in most of the managers in boxing, they're not gaming people, obviously, right? They're used to doing business the way they do business in boxing, and that's a certain sort of way. But the gaming aspect is a different beast. And because there hasn't been a lot of boxing games released over the last 10 years and almost none with licensing agreements, that boxing managers simply just don't have the experience dealing with gaming companies about the licenses. So there's a lot of trepidation. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. And I think that that is causing a little bit of a thing. But as you can see, as the roster continues to grow, those walls are being knocked down. And that's part of the reason. I actually know one aspect of it, but part of the reason that you're going to see this roster continue to grow. I'm trying to tell y'all, it's, if you're a boxing fan, it's going to get your attention if it hasn't already gotten your attention. So now
Now this is the part where I think a lot of people are going to feel frustrated. Now, what he's about to say is not set in stone at all, but also understand, as I keep reiterating, Brian Mazik, he's a Forbes article journalist, writer, and an insider in sports video games. He's close to these kind of situations, or he understands the dynamic of what happens when a publisher comes in and how they want to go ahead and build the game and make it as big as possible. The good thing, though, is that when this publisher kind of comes in and does their thing, we're going to get heavy type of marketing for this game, and we're going to kind of keep, it's going to keep us engaged throughout the time until it actually releases. But listen to this part because it's super important and it makes a lot of sense.
Last point on ESBC, the release date. That's one of the biggest questions that a lot of people are asking.
The number one question.
When is this game
what are you talking about,
going to be released? At one point, I thought it would be earlier in 2022. But now I'm starting to feel, based off of conversations that I'm having, that we're probably looking something more towards the summer of 2022. A lot of that has to do with the fact that if Steel City does link up with a major publisher, right, whoever that is, publishers of that nature, they don't like rushed deliveries,
He said publishers of that nature. I feel like Brian Mazik knows exactly who the publisher is, but he's not inclined to tell us right now.
Releases. They want time to hype a game. They want time to do their different media events. They want time to run trailers. They want to make sure that there is a maximum amount of exposure for their title. And also, from a financial support standpoint, Steel City started off as a very small studio, but I know for a fact the studio has grown exponentially over the time period that this game has been developed. And a lot of it has been because of these increased investments that are coming from all of these people who are loving what is happening. So if they do link with a publisher, which is what I believe strongly is probably going to happen, you can expect at that point is when you'll probably see your concrete release date or release a month. And you can expect it to be a little bit of a ways out.
And that makes sense if they're waiting on this entire publisher merger and whole thing to come to fruition. It makes sense that they're not giving us a release date because that publisher would have a more strategic release date in mind for the game that encompasses when the game is fully complete and ready and ready to go to market, and also a good amount of hype buildup and marketing that got behind it before and peaks at that moment of release, because they're obviously been doing this. It's not going to be their first rodeo, but I think that them having a big publisher like a Take-Two Interactive or a 2K would be an insanely positive thing in terms of getting the word out, the recognition out, and basically the financial backing that it needs to fulfill any type of dream that that team at Steel City Interactive ever had for that game. And before anybody says, oh, but Take-Two made a horrible boxing game. No, Take-Two published the game from Venom Games. It was not Take-Two that made that game. They were the publishers. That Venom Games made a horrible game. If Venom Games came back to try to make a boxing game, we not buying that. But this is Steel City Interactive making a boxing game where it could be Take-Two or 2K going ahead and being their publisher.
Because they're going to want time to hype this game up. So I'm thinking somewhere around Cinco de Mayo, because we all know how humongous of a holiday that is.
I could hear a lot of people's souls getting crushed when he says Cinco de Mayo 2022.
Especially for boxing. For years, we always knew we would get a Floyd fight, or we're going to see the greatest Mexican fighter in the world at that particular time is more than likely going to fight that weekend. So it is a huge day for the sport of boxing and a huge time. And
makes a lot of sense what he's saying.
It would not shock me in one bit if that's a time period that ESBC takes advantage of, especially if there's a huge fight around that time. We'll see what happens with Canelo. Obviously, we already know he's in the game. So it just makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. So keep your eyes open for that right there. All right. I appreciate everybody who...
All right, guys. So that was basically it. Let me know your thoughts. Of course, go to let me just switch over real quick over here. Go to Brian Mazeek's channel, Unique Mazeek. I will have the link down in the description box below. I'll also have the link to this video down below in the description box so you can take a look at it. But I think is incredibly important. I think what he's saying is incredibly important. And he, like once again, guys, he is an insider. He's not just a regular Joe Schmo. He's an insider and has been on the inside for years. So if anything, what he's saying has a lot of weight to it. Now, is it set in stone? Are these things coming from Steel City Interactive themselves? No, but he does know what the rumblings are behind the scenes on what's going on with publishers, on what's going on with roster inclusion and stuff. And he's saying major additions to the roster that basically leaves, you know, nothing to the imagination. Anything can happen. Whatever you imagine is probably about to happen in terms of these roster acquisitions, which is crazy. And then he's also saying that a major publisher might come in and it might now be ESBC 2K. Who knows? I think that is a great thing for exposure. If that was to happen, once again, none of this is a confirmed thing. This is all from his insider knowledge or from what the rumblings that he is hearing. But at the same token, I'm gonna repeat it one more time. That's Brian Mazeek. So I'm gonna end it right here. I wanted to share this with you guys because I was watching and I noticed nobody was talking about this. Nobody said anything. This was yesterday. I do know that this is he had a full stream and he only said that in a small part of the stream. But let me know what you guys think. Tell me in the comment section below. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and go check out Brian Mazeek's channel because the dude knows what he's talking about and he knows a lot. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.